until I started as the world's oldest graduate at Deloitte, like Robert De Niro in The Apprentice. So I started to move towards helping people set up like high-performing teams. I could see everyone was struggling. And I set up like a well-being function, started talking about it. And then each time I spoke, I found that 1, 2, 3 people were gravitating towards it, would appreciate it as you tell a little bit of your story. And then you can see on someone's face how much it means to them to feel seen for the first time. And then they have a conversation. Everything is aligned. I'm like, the reason I went through all of this is so I can do this.
Where does your ADHD fit into that journey then?
Because if you don't understand yourself, like I didn't with the bulimia, I didn't understand what it was, then you're not going to be able to do anything to address it, make changes, or put yourself in a better position, are you? And my team said, we love working with you, but is it flipping hard work? So I wasn't so fussed on the diagnosis for myself, rather how my teams can work with me better.
I used the word disruptor at the beginning.
Yeah,
he was with Bupa, he's with the biggest corporates.
A decade ago, you could have been described as a misfit, couldn't you?
Yeah, well, I'll say probably still. Yeah.
Well,
I'll say it's a positive connotation now, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my point.
Yeah.
We're slowly, incrementally getting there.
Ryan Hopkins, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You know I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
So we've got ADHD, Ryan Hopkins, and then we've got all the amazing work you're doing in the space of mental health, wellness, author, 52 weeks of wellbeing. I don't know how well you're selling that now, but it seems like every country's got a copy of it.
We're getting there slowly.
But there's this kind of entwined your own mental health journey with then you being so disruptive in the space that was pretty sterile, pretty archaic, and you're blowing that apart, working the likes of Bupa, big corporates, making huge changes. I want to go back to the young version of you that probably couldn't imagine doing that. And what I'm really asking is, how was school? How was your outlook coming through that to then be doing all the things you're doing now?
Easy question to start then. Let's go back to undig the old trauma, shall we?
Yeah.
How long we got? Where do I start? Well, in the book we interviewed, it's something I don't normally speak about, because you start to unlock pieces of your story. I'm sure you get comfortable telling maybe the depression piece, and I had an eating disorder, and I get comfortable telling that piece. And each time you tell a story, you're like, I forgot about that, holy moly. And there's like, I started thinking about it when we were interviewing for the book, and I was Mutton Jeff, or deaf for anyone that don't speak Cockney rhyming slang. And I was basically born half deaf, and couldn't hear too much, so my speaking was delayed. Apparently I didn't move too much either, so Mum was worried I was pretty stunted in more than one way. And I was young in my year as well, so not hugely confident, couldn't hear, but I think smart and always interested and wanting to do something different, but just struggled and everything was against us. That was fixed around 5 years old, and I came outside apparently after hospital, and I was like, what's that? And my mum was like, that's a car. I've never heard it, and obviously I'm guessing that has impact. It's not something I've ever considered, but up to 4 or 5, I think that must have been something that really held me back. But I think I was smart, but not able. I was dyslexic, but undiagnosed again until about 25. So never fulfilled what I was quite capable of doing at school. I struggled with my weight as well, and was bullied a fair amount. So up to about 13. And that was a horrible time. I used to come home in floods of tears, not want to be there. And that was at the time my family was breaking up at the same time. So home wasn't a comfort and school wasn't a comfort. So I didn't have anywhere to go at that age. But then I started playing rugby at about 14, and I could chuck my weight around, and then people want to be your friend because they know if we're going to play again next time, they're going to eat it otherwise, right? So yeah, you do want to be friendly now. Yeah, okay, cool. And that was like a real outlet for me, and that began, I think, helping me get some confidence. But I think up until that point, I was very not confident. I think I wanted to be gregarious, but had very little self-worth because I didn't know what I stood for, who I was. But who does at that age, right? I thought very little of myself, and body image is something I've struggled with since a kid, really, which fed about an 8-year journey with bulimia during my 20s, but that's another story. You only asked for one bit of it, so I'll give you that bit first.
Mate, love the fact you shared all that. Yeah, huge, so much shared and so much kind of trauma and lived experience there. But when did you kind of start piecing together a journey that's become something you're helping so many others with now?
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, with the bulimia, the only person I told was my mum at like 20. Because I was a working class dude, like, who plays rugby. Like, eating disorder ain't something you struggle with. Like, that's something that women have. There's a perception, right? But I didn't see another woman or a man speaking about it. So I understood no one who was going through that. So the only person I told was mum. And it was only because one day I got sent home from Halifax Bank. I was the top salesperson in the UK, actually, believe it or not. And I was pretty good at it. You come in with your passport, you want £5, you'd leave with a mortgage, right? But like, I was trying to focus on losing weight after a rugby accident. I broke my leg and didn't walk for about a year, and spiraled into a really deep depression and in a place where I wanted to take my own life. I come out of that trying to lose weight as I began to walk again. But I developed some really unhealthy coping mechanisms, and then one of which was bulimia. And eventually I got to a point where I was so calorie restricted that I couldn't get my words out. I was thinking, but they just weren't coming out. I was gaunt. I was about like 8% body fat, lean, but starting to get attention. So I thought I was doing the right thing. But then I met Mum and told her, and she's like, I know. She's like, of course I know. We sat down, we shared a slice of cake, and she was the first person I told, and that was it for a long time. Until I started as the world's oldest graduate at Deloitte, like Robert De Niro in The Apprentice. Like, I rock up to the office, I'm, all right, kids, TikTok, am I right? So, started there having worked around the world and not got any GCSEs really or A-levels, and I got accepted to like the worst uni in the country eventually, worked my butt off, transferred to Oxford Brookes and got onto the Deloitte grad scheme at like 26. And started to do like people transformation and stuff, and I was another flippant language. I joined the business, I didn't know how to sign off an email. I was like, yours faithfully, yours sincerely. I've settled on cheers. I think it's much better. But like I
thought about a career as a stand-up comedian.
I do quite like speaking, but we'll get to that. And so I started to move towards helping people set up like high-performing teams. I could see everyone was struggling, and at one project I was working to help Dyson move from B2B to B2C, and I was like program office doing big Microsoft project plans and stuff. And I set up like a well-being function, started talking about it, and then each time I spoke, I found that 1, 2, 3 people were gravitating towards it, would appreciate it as you tell a little bit of your story. Then you go to another group and you speak to a bigger audience, you realise that people don't care, no one is judging you, and everyone's going through some version of shit in their life, right? But it all looks just slightly different, it's a shade of it. And then that was where it started, and then continuing to set those up and then unlocking pieces of my story that I felt comfortable to share, like at a time. And then you learn each time that feeling when you share, and then you can see on someone's face how much it means to them to feel seen for the first time, and then they have a conversation. It's not intoxicating is the right word, but like it's your purpose. Everything is aligned. I'm like, the reason I went through all of this is so I can do this. And then it all feels like it's starting to become worthwhile. And over the past 10 years since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. And now I spoke to like 110,000 people live at events around the world and share on quite big stages about this stuff. And it's wild. And I couldn't possibly imagine it would turn out to this.
To anchor the next question into why we're here, where does your ADHD fit into that journey then?
It's one of those, I bet everyone who sits in this chair, when they get diagnosed, I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, well, why didn't we speak about it before then? Because if you don't understand yourself, like I didn't with the bulimia, I didn't understand what it was, then you're not going to be able to do anything to address it, make changes, or put yourself in a better position, are you? Mm-hmm. And it was only when I came back to Deloitte to build the wellbeing consultancy I wanted 2 years before. And my team said, we love working with you, but is it flipping hard work? Because I'm like, boop, 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 boop. And I just jump around things. And I don't mind because I can keep I'm also autistic. So I remember my nan's phone number from when I was like 5. It's like 734-943. So I remember the things, and I can jump between the activities quite quickly, and it doesn't bother me too much. But for other people, it's quite stressful. So I wasn't so fussed on the diagnosis for myself, rather how my teams can work with me better.
Yeah.
And I did it. And it was like, you win the ADHD test, 10 out of 10. But I was like, oh, terrific. But then you start to think, okay, so then how can I like capture things, like be better at sharing with others? Because I'm so happy to jump around things all the time. I find it hard to sit still. And even when to relax, I need to go to the gym or move. And I find that's when my mind can be still.
Well, there's people around you, aren't there?
Exactly. And it was impacting them.
Yeah.
And that was why I went down that path to better understand myself. So I can, because if my team fly, then my stuff flies, and that's what I wanted to do.
And did it achieve that?
I think it's a work in progress, right? I think I can rub people up the wrong way because I want to get it done now. I want to do it properly. And I'm saying, I don't understand why you want to take 3 days to get that done when you can do it immediately or tonight or yesterday. And I know I can rub people up the wrong way, but that's because I want to get it done and I see the impact it can have, and I know it can be. So I try and push others to do the same, but that can be difficult for some people.
God, that really resonates.
Well, one of John's favourite questions, not that we've ever identified it with that, it is you get your diagnosis. You're an incredibly intelligent man. I've only known you for 20 minutes. I can feel that intelligence, and coupling that with the humour and the humility that you have. This is amazing. However, the question that John would normally ask, and I'm stealing it with pride, is when you got your diagnosis, how did that help you then understand yourself, and what did that give you?
It enables you to look back and understand why things were so challenging, and to give yourself like a bit of relief and say it's okay. Like, that's why it hurt so much for so long and why things were so difficult. And I find it hard to look back. I like looking forwards. It makes me feel a bit like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, look back and like that little boy who struggled so much, you come home and cry, and like, I'm like, because he didn't understand who he was, and he didn't fit in anywhere. Like, I felt like a square peg round hole at Deloitte. I felt exactly the same. I'm like, all right, geezer, and everyone there is like proper, and I feel like really well educated and well spoken. I tried to be like them and felt like I never fit in. And finally, when you understand, that's why you think like that. That's why you can't sit still, why you do all these crazy things, and it's a permission to be that person.
Yes.
And that is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And then I think it's small tweaks moving forwards, and the better you understand yourself, the better you can communicate how you like to work with others. I hate voice notes. John sends them to me all the time. I don't mind listening to his.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I'll say, if you leave me a 6-minute voice note, you don't understand what you're saying well enough. So take a second, work it out, and send me a 30-second one, or write in the text. So I'm like, I don't mind yours, seriously. We're all right.
I'll get a minute and a half in the next one and be like, oh, I've got to delete this now. I just remember what you said.
I communicate that to people, and that's how I like to
say, John, I don't want a podcast.
I say, what were you trying to say? But then, exactly. But then I'm better now at communicating what I need and how I like to work.
Okay. Because you understand yourself more.
Exactly. But that understanding is changing all the time. The autism diagnosis unlocked another level of it. I'm in the office, I'm like, I don't know if I can swear, but like, I've got a big FU strapped to my forehead, my headphones in, I've got Hans Zimmer music, and I'm locked in, I'm getting it done, so it don't bother me. And I know that I have to curate the environment to do quality work.
Yeah.
I'm just more cognizant of that now.
Can you see that I've used the word disruptor at the beginning?
Yes.
He was with Bupa, he's with the biggest corporates.
Yeah.
And Ryan didn't exist in this scenario 10, 20 years ago, but you're coming in now and he's talking sense, coming from a place of being real.
I thought there's a passion and an energy there, though, isn't there? You know, you look back on the likes of Bill Gates and those kind of people. You could have, a decade ago, you could have been described as a misfit, couldn't you?
Yeah, well, I'd say probably still. Yeah.
Well,
I'll say it's a positive connotation now, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my point. Yeah. Society is starting to become. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been accepted with your Hans Zimmer music, your headphones on, and an FU on your forehead. That wouldn't. You'd not have been allowed into Deloitte's or anywhere like that doing that. We're slowly, incrementally getting there. Which leads me to my next question for you. Do you feel any shame for being neurodivergent?
It's interesting because I don't know if it's a label I wear so much. Some people are very proud of it. It's in their bio, and I'm like, this is just me. Yeah. Like it or lump it. There's multiple levels to it, right? So if there's shame around things no, I don't think so. I think for many years I held a lot of weight with it, but then that shame exists in the darkness, and the more you talk about it, the more you laugh about it, the more you bring these conversations into the everyday, the shame is impossible to exist. So I'd say now, no.
And that's a very powerful statement in itself. The correlation, and the next question I want to ask you, because I'm fascinated by who you are, and I'm going to explore that fascination that I have. Where are you with your self-esteem now, having come through all of that bulimia, that excessive weight, that lack of self-esteem, the bullying? I can only imagine in that period your self-esteem was on the floor.
Yeah.
Is the modern day version of you reduced to that, or are you just better at coping with it?
Can I say both?
Yeah.
Still trying to find the presence to just be and be accepting and proud of where I am now, instead of saying, okay, what next, what next, what next, what next? But that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel purpose from movement, and I find it very difficult to be in the stillness. I'm trying to find more of that, and I'm actually incorporating some breath work every morning now, and I find it like transformational. And I used to like laugh at the wellness stuff almost and like poo-poo it, but there's a reason why so many people do it, and there's a place for it. And I am definitely more accepting now. Like body-wise, I'm not the leanest, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the weakest, I'm not the fittest, I'm not the fattest, but I'm in good nick. Do you know what I mean? I'm like strong up here, a little bit of love handles. This is a couple of beers on the weekend. This is the gym, and I think that's a nice balance. There's always an element, there's always a voice internally. And where I ripped my bicep not long ago, I had it repaired about 3 months ago. I was using a calorie counter, and then I was stepping on the scales every day and felt those negative things creeping back in and that voice getting louder. I'm just more cognizant of it, and I can feel it, and the positive voice is greater. So there are elements, and I'm trying to embrace and be just grateful for where I am, because if you're always looking to the next thing, you're never going to enjoy the present moment, and that's what I'm trying to do now. But I'm very proud of where I am, but I still think there's elements, I think there always will be.
One of the great scientists that I've worked with in the ADHD, Russ Barkley, quite rightly
Plays
said...
for Aston Villa.
No.
He used to live near me in London. Yeah.
Give me a chance, man. Give me a chance. He talks about people with ADHD live in the now, and struggle to relate with what's coming next or what's just been living in the now. Now, that's normally almost derogatory term of not being able to look at the circumstances coming and judge things and what have you. But what you've just described is you're present, you're right comfortable with your present right now.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress, but I think so.
Yeah.
I spend my life talking about this stuff, and I'm very good at giving advice, and sometimes I'm not so good at taking it, as we all are, right? I say to others, don't work all the time, and I'm spending the evening doing work, exactly, because I love it. I'm grateful that I get the chance.
That's where I was going earlier, that purpose. But remember, you talked about how lost you were and how, so many things you had going on personally. But you are full of purpose now. You're lit up with what you're doing, and you're making so many things happen. When did that purpose kick in? When did you actually get a sort of a scenario? Because you talked about Deloitte, not necessarily feeling you fitted in. Where did that kind of moment come, and then that purpose fulfillment, if you like, generate to be the person you are now? 2020,
leaving Deloitte and the safety of that role to go and lead colleague experience or work in colleague experience at Sainsbury's Tech, and beginning to lean into what I knew to be true is we can make work that's good for people, and it's not about pushing apps at people. If you make work that's good and trust smart people to do what they need, they will. The app is a nice thing. And I started a show called Toilet Break Wellbeing, and I was that you flush and you flourish. And I did a selfie on the toilet, and I said 1 minute tip, wellbeing doesn't need to be confused. If you did 10 press-ups every time you went to the loo this year, you do 29,200 press-ups, get to it. And I did about 100 episodes of this, which actually turned into my book proposal and into the book. But I said, if you want to be a leader in this space, you have to turn up every day. And I started writing every single day, which then turned into the book. And often it's chucking stuff into nowhere, and no one gave less of it. They couldn't give less of a shit. But I kept doing it.
Great pun.
And that was actually accidental. I'm chuffed. But then by doing that, then you start to believe in yourself by turning up every day and acting and doing the things that you need to do. And you say, if you want to do it, and you see what others are doing, you want to emulate in that space. And I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, well, if I want to be in their shoes in 10 years' time, these are the things I need to do to move towards it. And just every single day, I'll go to a coffee shop on the weekend, write the content, and that would get released during the week. My book, I went to Wetherspoons in Putney, table 212, same table, 9 o'clock every Saturday and Sunday for 16 weeks. And that's where I got the book written. So it's about finding those little things. And I found by doing those behaviours, that then encouraged me that I was on the right track. I did get laid off twice, 2 redundancies in quick succession, which was a short, sharp lesson in maybe I've done the wrong thing. But I was confident with the writing and everything that I'd done that I was in the right space. And then I was asked to come back to Deloitte to build that wellbeing consultancy I wanted to do years before. But people only know I want to do it because I'm talking about it so regularly and turning up every day. And the thinking is we can make work that's good for people. It positively impacts the bottom line. It's massively positive for society, despite the negative press that work gets. It's the worst thing ever. It's the greatest worst thing of our subjective well-being is not having a job. But yet everyone moans it can be good for us. And that's what I'm trying to create. And that message, it's practical, try and make it fun. I do that regularly. And now I believe that I'm the person, I hope, or one of the people that can inspire this thinking. It's always data-led and it's always fun. And I keep turning up and the message is starting to resonate.
You know, he did a TEDx talk on the toilet.
First person in history, believe it or not. Obviously, quite easy to believe.
Just saying, data-driven and fun.
Yeah.
Sums it up.
Presumably you took a dry toilet to the stage.
So it's quite a funny story, actually. So the morning of the TED Talk, I had to go to Screwfix in Whitechapel. I was like, can I get a throne, please? And I said, like the lightest one. They gave me this porcelain one. So I've had to walk it in my TED outfit across to like the Shoreditch Theatre and like put it together. And I had to get special permission from TED head office in Atlanta to like, have the toilet on stage. I said, I'm going to need a toilet. They said, we think there'll be one at the venue. I said, no, I'm bringing my own. They said, okay.
The Queen?
Yeah, that's it. So then it was like the whole premise, because another part of my life when I was at uni, I got so anxious, put so much pressure on myself to succeed because I thought this is your last shot. If you're this old going to university, you can't mess this up. That every time I left the front door, I felt like I was going to piss myself for about a year. Eventually I just stayed home. So I couldn't be anywhere that wasn't near a toilet. So it was partly to laugh and smile at that memory. That's how Toilet Break Wellbeing was born. And then I took that to the TED stage when it was engaging 1 billion people from the toilet was the talk. And that's my intent, is to engage 1 billion people in this conversation. And it's like 1.7 million through Jack, 1.3 million of employees through organizations I work with, and about 25 million on socials now. So we're starting to chalk it up.
Yeah, you're on a hockey stick.
It's about to fly.
As recent as yesterday, you're on a mission.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the ADHD thing then.
Yeah.
The ADHD diagnosis and then the autism diagnosis, yeah?
Yeah.
Where do you see the message for other people about your diagnoses for those two co-occurring conditions as something that other people can listen to positively?
Yeah, I struggle to see now with the shoes that I have on how it could be a negative thing, but I know how it's perceived, and there's a lot of like stigma around it, right? They think a certain way, they do a certain thing, but I think you only have to look to people that have got there doing incredible things and wear that as a badge of something amazing. And a lot of the people I work with think that way. And now I believe anything that you can do to better the understanding of yourself, be that a diagnosis here or understanding your personality and your drivers. I did the test to do like values, like that, and my top 3 are determination, ambition, and playfulness. And I pulled them together to create a mantra, which is changing the world just as I am. And that comes from understanding oneself. And then when you feel like you're aligned with what it is you're trying to do, the train's on the tracks, you're congruent, everything feels like it's just taken off, doesn't it? And then things come in behind you, and that comes from that understanding.
Absolutely, but then when we look at your life, bullied at school, bulimic, very poor relationship with food at that time, and the low self-esteem, and as you just said, not willing to go out of the house for fear of wetting yourself. And I'm not saying the watershed was your diagnosis for those two conditions, but they were pre those diagnoses.
Because I didn't understand myself.
Exactly, that's my point. So we get to there, and now we've got this version of you. TED Talk on a toilet, for crying out loud, that's not the same person that wouldn't get off the toilet.
This is true.
So there is a junction in your life where your awareness of yourself has changed your life, because it's changed your reflective outlook on yourself, hasn't it?
Yeah, you stop looking at yourself as something to be pitied.
Yes.
And that exists in shame, and that comes from showing up as you are. And there'll be people who don't quite like you for that, but it's much easier than wearing a mask every day.
Yeah.
And I tried my best at Deloitte to look and sound like everyone else. There's amazing people that work there, so smart, and I always felt inferior. But I went back after that time out and doing the content and stuff, and I was still doing content in the toilet, and I got pulled in front of HR, PR, would you pack it in? I said, no. I said, we're building something, it's different. This is who I am. You pull me back this way, and this is what we're going to do. And I said, also, look how much money we're making, shut up. So then eventually, once you embrace that, then the difference between those two versions, it's almost in that window between, I think it really changed for me.
I can
and
feel
it happened on the toilet.
Yeah, I can feel it. And the self-esteem and confidence are completely different things, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
In my explanation of that is confidence you project into other people, self-esteem is what you hold within yourself.
And confidence you can masquerade as if you have some, but self-esteem you can't.
Absolutely, because that's you. That's within you.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well,
I like that.
Yeah, and my question to you is, you come over as being very confident. This is an amazingly confident, almost a performance. It's almost a stage show of honesty and integrity from you, sat with you. Where's your self-belief these days? Is that strong enough to carry that bit now? Or do you still have that strong inner chimp?
That's such a good question. It's in the TED talk, the practices. I did 38 practice talks ahead of the actual talk itself. So I was like, I'm going to flip and nail this. I got a shot here to do it. So every night after work, I had a different audience lined up. I put it out and then practice with different audiences.
Wow.
Because I knew when I got to the stage, I wanted to smash it. Like I was 17 minutes, 54, and it was 18-minute talk. It was like, I knew exactly.
I was around you during that time,
Yeah.
and you were relentless.
Yeah. But then the last time I practiced, you were so on the money with that question. Mum said you tell that story as if it's not your own. It's a performance. And what I'm trying to do now with this stillness, I'm trying to find and not avoid looking at my former self and try and show my previous self some love, which is something I've avoided like the plague for most of my life because it's painful. And I think the self-esteem has been worked on. The confidence has been created through doing. And I think there's still work to be done with that self-esteem, if I'm honest. But I'm confident I can turn up, have a strong confidence. Like yesterday, I hosted a session at the Association of Medical Insurers and Intermediaries. The most experienced people in the space, AXA, Aviva, Bupa, and it's an incredibly intimidating audience. And I was really nervous before, and I practiced and prepared for this for months because I believe this group can help millions, but will help millions of people, and I want to lead that change. I was really nervous. So I just started the whole thing by projecting confidence and saying, I'm really nervous about this because this is something I care about so much because we have a collective opportunity to help millions of people. That then enabled the self-esteem to feel better. Mm-hmm. So almost sometimes by pushing that confidence and actually leaning into that a little bit, then that enables what's happening inside.
Well, that gave you a moment of integrity, didn't it?
Exactly. And then no one wants you to fail.
Yeah.
Right? The vast majority of people don't. If you turn up as you are, you explain where you're at, point at the elephant who's on stage with you.
Yeah.
Often I need a piss every time before I speak. When I go on stage, I have to be backstage, pacing, getting rid of my energy. I can't sit because I feel like I'm going to explode. I'm doing it right now, but my leg's rocking. And then I'll go on. So it's about understanding those things. But yeah, the confidence might seem full. I think the self-esteem is. I've had a really amazing weekend, a few weekends. Went to Portugal and did a men's retreat, and I've never done anything like that. And then inside, there was lots of real conversations and tears and stuff like that, and that's not something I've embraced. So I think this next bit of my journey is just beginning.
Exciting.
It is.
What can you do with all this experience and authenticity, as Phil said, to then ripple this into what needs to change in the corporate environment, specifically for neurodivergent people who would never admit they've got to pace up and down before they do a presentation, but that's all they want to do. And all the things that you now do to be yourself that in the working environment people mask, people are hiding from. And it's a bit of a harsh question because it's not like you had any time to prep on it, but you have so much knowledge and interaction with the corporates and you're trying to make these changes. Is there any one change that you can see that needs to change in the corporates to embrace neurodivergent behaviour?
One thing that needs to change, there's a lot of things that needs to change. I think when I think about workplace well-being, it's not an organisation's responsibility to improve happiness, right? It's not. People are like, oh my God, but it is their responsibility not to worsen it. And when we think about improving it, we try and do the events, the lunches, that sort of thing, and which actually adds to a workload which is already full. What we want to do, but I think best wellbeing intervention is often about reduction or subtraction. And for me, if we flip that switch instead of trying to push people into these events, which have been great for awareness, and say, what do you need as a smart individual to work in a way that suits you? Creating space, looking at how the technology is used, that for me is an enlightened place. And those conversations don't have, and we presume that we understand, we know someone's got a label of ADHD, okay, this is what they need. rubbish, because you don't understand everything else that's going on in their life and where they've come from, their background, and how they like to show up.
It's the individualization, isn't it?
Exactly. But
when you've met one person with ADHD, you've only met one person with ADHD.
Exactly. And then you know all of them. Of course you do. We're all the same, right?
Yeah.
No, of course we're not.
Yeah.
But the business, if they look at it and try and create space and then say the individual interventions are over there when you need it, instead of trying to push the intervention onto people, that's where we find there's a bit of a disconnect, and that it puts the wellness activities put people's noses out of joint. But I think those two things can come together, and I think by splitting them and then working out how you can create the space for neurodivergent people to work in a way that which suits them, focus on clear outcomes and KPIs, that's a different place. If they can't hit those KPIs, and much you support them, that's a performance issue, and people are really worried about
Or
having
the
that
wrong
conversation.
KPIs.
Exactly.
For that person to
We
hit.
were supposed to.
I was just going back
Perfect
to
head.
I was going back to
Business has
Marissa.
been voted, valued at $200 million,
Yes, I know.
and she's ADHD. Drink is created from a matcha point of view to try and help with neurodivergence sort of thing. So she's coming at it with
She's changed the paradigm, right?
She has completely.
Yeah. So
as you are doing, have done, and will do, and as we sadly have to wrap out of this, because we've had all the signals from the production team, we've got to wrap out. What I would say to sum up this amazing episode and exploration of your journey, from bullied, bulimic, low self-esteem, you've mentioned that there was shame of in you then, to acknowledging your inner chimp now, but knowing it better, being friendlier with your inner chimp now, to where you're going to go with what you're doing, the following you've got, the data you're using, the intelligence you bring to this is absolutely off the scale phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a compliment, but the biggest compliment, I don't think, is about your intelligence level. It's about your application and the way that you apply things. As a stand-up comedian sat down on a toilet running a TED Talk who's gone through that journey, I don't think I've ever met a man as unique as you, who is adorable as you, who is as daunting because of that intelligence as you, who can articulate things as well as you've done. That has been one of the best half-an-hour conversations I've had for a long, long time. You told me it would be. Yeah. We've got to do more with this together on the neurospicy stuff, because you can engage people. And where I'd say is, take a challenge off me, if you will, as we walk out of here. How can we engage government on this? Because the corporates are great, but the national policy is broken. And let's see if we can do anything there to bring about change in systemic in Westminster.
Let's get to work.
I'd love to do it with you.
Yeah.
You just got called adorable.
I quite
Didn't
like
see that
it.
coming.
No, I really like it.
Nah, mate, you made yourself available to me, so thank you. I mean, I told you you'd enjoy talking to Ryan.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers, buddy.
No, pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks, mate.
Well done, mate.